Namaskar. Good morning. MA Philosophy MPY-001 Block number 4 Orthodox Systems 2 Unit number 1 Advait Vedant. Advait Vedant Objectives. This unit is about Advait Vedant, its meaning and significance in Indian philosophy. The word Advaita, according to the dictionary, is non-dualism, especially in relation to identifying Brahman with the universal or with soul or the spirit and matter. It also means peerless and unique. Literal meaning of Vedanta is the end of Veda. Upanishad came at the end of Veda. They are the Gyan Kandas. They teach knowledge of Brahman or the universal spirit, who is described as both creator and creation, actor and act, existence, knowledge and joy. Upanishad's major teachings are: the self exists, it is immoral, it is immortal, without a beginning or an end, especially non-material, and the self is identical with Brahman, the highest reality, and the absolute. The main feature of Advait Vedant is to understand Brahman, the supreme soul. To to understand Brahman, one has to attain knowledge, overcome ignorance, and be liberated and be in vigilant state at the conscious level. Advait Vedant teaches three stages of truth. The first stage is the transcendental or uh, Paramarthika, in which Brahman is the only reality and nothing else. The second stage is the pragmatic or uh, Vyavharik, in which both Jiva, living creatures, and individual souls and God are true, and the material world is also true. The third and the last stage is the apparent or Pratibhasika, in which material world reality is actually false, like mistaking a rope for a snake. To comprehend the essence of Advait philosophy, one has to understand these topics: Brahman and Atman, Avidya and Maya, ignorance and illusion, Karya and Karan, effect and cause, knowledge, attaining liberation through knowledge. Introduction. Around 7th century, Gaudapad, the author of Mandukya Karika, a commentary on Mandukya Upanishad, discussed that there was no duality, awake or dream. The mind moves through illusion, Maya, and only non-duality, Advait, is the final truth. The truth is difficult to know because of ignorance or illusion. There is no beginning of the thing by itself or from some other thing. There is only Atman, all soul. There is no individual soul, and individual soul is temporarily uh, de- uh, delineated as the space that a jar contains is delineated from the main space. Once the jar is broken, the space within the jar merges with the vast space. Shankara built further on Gaudapada's foundation and gave more strength to the Advait Vedanta. His three major commentaries are on Brahma Sutras, Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita. Shankara, while propounding his philosophy, does not start from the empirical world with logical analysis but rather directly from the absolute Brahman. Shankara's metaphysics stands on the criterion that the real is that whose negation is impossible. Building his argument that the Upanishads teach the nature of Brahman, he develops a complete epistemology to account for a human error in taking the world as real. He justifies that Brahman is outside time, space, and causality, which are simply forms of empirical experience. No distinction in Brahman or from Brahman is possible. Shankara strongly supporting that the world is not real but illusion. Logically analyzes his statement. Number one, whatever remains eternal is true, and whatsoever is destroyed is not eternal and is untrue. As the world is created and destroyed, it is not real. Truth is unchanging. Since the world is changing, it is not real. Things that are independent of time and space are real, and whatever is in space and time is unreal. Just as one sees the dream in sleep, one sees the kind of dream even when one is awake. The world is compared to this conscious dream. The world is a superimposition of Brahman. Superimposition cannot be real. Brahman and Atman. According to Dictionary meaning: Brahman is sacred learning, a divine source. Brahman is considered as the supreme, all-pervading spirit and the soul of the universe, the divine essence and source of all being, from which all created things emanate and to which they return. Brahman, our supreme spirit, is not an object of worship in the usual sense of the term, but Brahman is mediated upon by the devout with profound veneration. Mandan Mishra, accepting Bhartari's thesis, says that Brahman is language, sab, Shabdadvait. Brahman is consciousness, and consciousness is the power of speech. So Brahman is speech of the whole universe, manifestation of Vivarth speech. Brahman was the center theme in Upanishads, Gyan Kand, the Chandogya Upanishad, Tat Tamasi, that thou art. Jiva is identified with Brahman. Brahman and the self are the one and the same. According to Advaita, there is no duality, one and many, infinite and finite, the subject and the object, etc., are the limitation of consciousness that cannot comprehend the Brahman due to ignorance or avidya. There is no language to describe Brahman. It is like neti neti, nor this, nor this, nor this. Understanding Brahman is beyond the senses. He is the purest knowledge and illuminates like the source of light. Brahman is self-existent. He is described as Sachidanand, meaning Sat, infinite truth, Chit, infinite consciousness, Ananda, infinite bliss. Shankara sketches him as Satyam, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Taittiriya Upanishad. Brahman is the truth, knowledge, and endless. Brahman is free from any kind of differences or differentiation. Brahman is neither Sajati, homogeneous, became there is no second to him, nor Vijati, heterogeneous, because none other than him exists. Em- Ekam Ekamev Dvitam. It is one without the second. Chandogya Upanishad. Advaita philosophy is built on the stronghold of Upanishads and Brahma Sutra. Upanishads gave various incidences where it is highlighted then that Brahman, Atman, Pragyanam Brahm, consciousness is Brahma. Aitreya Upanishad. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahm. Vedaranyak Upanishad. I am Atma Brahm, this Atman is Brahm. Mandukya Upanishad. Brahma Sutra start with Athato Brahma Jigyasa, chapter 1, Samanvaya, harmony, harmony. Taking these as examples, the philosophy puts forth the unique theory that Brahman is the one, the whole, and the and only reality. Other than Brahman, everything else, including the universe, material objects, and individual, are false. Brahman is infinite, omnipresent, omnipotent, incorporeal, impersonal, transcendent reality. That is the divine ground for all being. There is no separation or distinction between Brahman and others in the universe. This is how, when one achieves the Turiya state, one experiences that one's soul becomes one with everything else. Atman exactly means breath, but according to some, it is connected with Aham, I, and according to others, contrast of Avatman. From Vedic period, Atman is interpreted as breath, soul, and the principle of life and sensation. After the Vedic period in Indian philosophy, Atman is described as the eternal core of the core of the personality, which survives after death and transmigrates to a new life or is released from the bond of existence. Upanishads define Atman as part of the universal Brahman, with which it can commune or even fuse. So Atman is deemed to be the central circle identified with Brahma. Advaita Vedanta understand Atman not as a part of Brahman, not ultimately dissolved into Brahman, but as the whole of Brahman itself. One has to understand how the individual soul, which is limited and one in each body, can be same as Brahman. The philosophy argues that self is not an individual concept. Atman is only one and unique. It is like the same moon that appears as several moons on its reflections on the surface of the water covered with bubbles. Atman appears as different Atman in different bodies. Atman is the silent witness of all the life happening and free from the beyond sin and merit. It is incorporeal and independent. When the reflection of Atman leads to avidya, ignorance, Atman becomes Jeev, a living being with the body and senses. Each Jeev feels that he has his own unique and distinct Atman called Jeevatman. The concept of Jeev is true in pragmatic level. In the transcendental level, the Atman is equal to Brahman. The Advaita Vedanta explains the relative and the unique and the unreal nature of the objective world. It propounds the Advaita one without a second and states three levels of experience of Atman: waking, Vaiswanara, dreaming, Tejas, and deep sleep, Pragya, Prajna, Pragya. Atman waking, Vaiswanara dreaming, Tejas, and deep sleep, Prajna, Pragna, Pragya. Avidya and Maya. Shankara distinguishes Brahman as higher Brahman and lower Brahman in his major commentaries. According to him, the higher Brahman is understood only by knowledge, Vidya. He is free from attachment, names, and forms. He is Nirguna Brahman. This understanding brings about liberation. Saguna Brahman or God, according to Shankara, is lower Brahman. He says that this Brahman is viewed from the aspect of ignorance, avidya. Arguing further, Shankara asks, when the higher Brahman is the absolute, where is the cause for the distinction? He further says that the lower Brahman is the cause of diversity. The entire Advaita philosophy concentrates on how one can understand Brahman. Philosophers discuss the hurdles that are faced while understanding Brahman. The main characteristics to understand Brahman is Vidya, knowledge. Knowledge is possible only when the mind is cleared from doubts and appearances. As long as there is no transparency, learning becomes ignorance, avidya. Gaudapad call ignorance as vikalpa, wrong interpretation, and Sankara calls it as adhyas, superimposition. Shankya gives an example for cause and effect. The pot is a transformation of the clay. It is and real. But Avidya philosophy says that except Brahman, the rest of the thing is only an appearance. Because of Avidya, even the pot and clay, effect and cause become unreal at a higher standpoint. Pa- Paramarthika, but real at empirical standpoint. Vyavaharika. Gaudapada says that people fail to understand at the higher point of view because of wrong interpretation. He gives another example how things are seen differently. One sees a rope at dusk and thinks it as a snake. Due to the wrong interpretation of the senses, Sankara calls this wrong interpretation superimposition adhyas. He defines it as the appearance in the form of a memory of something personally experienced in some other place. Unless one has the idea of or seen a snake, it is not possible to mistake a rope for a snake. Similarly, it is natural tendency to superimpose the qualities of the object on its of subject and vice versa. Carl H. Potter writes, we identify our self Q seat of consciousness with our self Q body, mind, memory, etc., all of which are objects, not subjects, and so have at least one property that the self Q subject cannot have. Shankara identifies such superimposition with the result of avidya, ignorance. The only way to overcome ignorance is to thrive by vidya, knowledge. Maya. There are references to the use of word Maya in the Rig Veda and in a few Upanishads as mysteries. Even Advaita Vedanta uses the same meaning in its interpretation of the word Maya. Gaudapada uses Maya in different occasions, not only to mean the power of apparently creating things but also to speak of the things so created. This kind of usage is found in Buddhism. In this respect, Gaudapad is influenced by Buddhism. He does not identify Maya as Maya with Avidya, but Shankara does. Shankara uses the term Avidya to speak of that which creates the world of Maya or name and form, but does not refer to the world itself as Avidya. Joshi has pointed out that Shankara is not consistent in this respect, but it is indicated Shankara uses avidya while discussing superimposition and maya while mentioning prakriti or namruta, namrupa, mentioning prakriti or namrupa. Karl Potter writes Sankara makes it known that superimposition does not need a cause as it is beginningless. Avidya is for the empirical objects in the world but for the false awareness of those objects. A few scholars question the identical use of avidya and maya. They argue if ignorance is of Jeev, then it belongs to Brahman. Maya is God's power to produce the world as illusion. The main concept of Advait Vedanta is that there is no individual self or jivas and everything is Brahman. If such is the case, then ignorance is of Brahman. The question arises, what is avidya? Mandan Mishra says that ignorance is anirvachani, as neither real nor unreal. Sureswara points out that avidya is unreal, so it does not affect Brahma. However, the jiva takes avidya for real, so it is jiva which is ignorant. Even though Shankara does not have definite terminology to distinguish between avidya and maya. He stresses avidya and maya are causing us to to experience the thing that we do, which is to give it a positive function beyond that of merely veiling Brahman. Maya has a complex illusory power of Brahman which causes the Brahman to be seen as the material world of separate forms. Maya has two functions. One is to hide Brahman from ordinary human perception, and other is to present the material world is in its Brahman place. Maya is also said to be indescribable, though it may be said that since data entering one's awareness via the five senses are Maya, since the fundamental reality underlying sensory perception is completely hidden. The credibility of Maya being real and unreal is not for sure, but Brahman is not touched by Maya. It is like the magician who is not affected by his own tricks. Both avidya and Maya are temporary, and action is not necessary to overcome avidya. It is naturally removed by its opposite vidya, knowledge. Knowing needs intention and depends on the agent. For example, to milk a cow, what is needed is a cow and the cognition of milking. Whereas if one has a false understanding, mistake can be rectified by correct information. A false understanding of a rope as a snake is removed when one receives the information that it is rope. Knowledge is gained by personal perseverance to know the truth. The truth is realized at two levels. One is to study the great scripture with the guidance of a teacher, guru, and the second level is to examine one's interpretation of things and situations. The self-examination starts with the questioning of one's own understanding of the present and the previous experiences. One has to examine the reasons for the false interpretation and realize the higher knowledge governed by nothing but the truth. How is that the snake is superimposed on a rope? It is due to fear of snake or the failure of the senses to recognize correctly. Are rope and snake are two different objects? If they are two distinct objects, then why one is superimposed on the other? Clarity in understanding brings about truth. The truth is that is the knowledge. Karya and Karana effect, cause and effect and cause. Gaudapad justifies that object which is not existing at the beginning can exist in the end or in the middle. That is to say, an object is not completely non-existent. He gives an example of a dream. When one dream, he knows that it does not exist. In sleep, the dream originates exist for some time. Once the sleeper wakes up, the dream ceases to exist. Gaudapada says even the objects one sees in wakeful state are unreal as they originate like in dream. He divides objects in two groups, real Sat and unreal Asat. Unreal objects are born and seen to be real. Discussing the relation of cause and effect, he says that both cause and effect are unreal under four possibilities. And number one, if the effect is different from the cause, then it is not real. Number second, if the cause is unreal and becomes real in effect, it will be absurd like son of a barren woman. Third, the cause is real and the effect is not. Number four, the last one is both cause and effect are unreal, in which case nothing ever comes to existence or goes out of existence. He says that whatever originates has to end, like Sankara emotion etc. Nothing can stay for even. Sankara's argument about cause and effect is that when one's understanding of a thing called A depends on on the persistence of another thing B, and it might be a possibility that A and B are similar in nature, but A might not be equal to B. In such case, understanding of A does not depend upon understanding of B. For example, a horse can be perceived without the presence of a donkey, and it is further put forth that an agent karta is as necessary for a cause karma karan and effect karya. To make a pot, clay is the cause, the pot is an effect, the person who does the pot is the agent. Karta, as he is the one who gives shape to the pot. Without the agent, the effect will not come into existence. Sankara says the only thing that one properly functions as agent in the effect itself. He further states that cause has a pre-existence of the effect before it is manifested. Causality involves a relationship between the agent with the nature and the effect with the nature. Agent brings about effect manifestation to our experience. The effect pot is made out of clay. The effect is thus identical in substance with its cause. Pre-existent in it is the potency, and that is sakaryavad. This causation is called pa- Parinamavad and Vivartavad. Sankhya system adopts Parinamavad. It says that pot is a transformation of the clay. The cause and effect exist at the appointed time, and it is not unreal. But Vivartavad argues that the pot is an object, but an appearance is a work of imagination conditioned by ignorance, avidya. Advaita hails विवर्तनवाद rather than parinamvad model. The reality of the cause is in reality only relative of the effect. With the pot, the clay is real, but Shankara says even the clay is not ultimately real. The ultimate reality brings about only Brahma, and all the others are considered as avidya. Further discussing the cause and effect, avidya, Advait Vedanta says that karya effect is non different from the karana cause. Nevertheless, karana is different from karya. This principle is called karya karan anan, ananyatva, non-difference of the effect from cause. It is said if the cause is destroyed, the effect will no longer exist. For example, in the cotton cloth, if thread is removed, then there will not be cloth. The cloth is destroyed. Similarly, the effect thread, the cause cotton is removed, then there will not be any thread. Shankara taking Brahma Sutra, an, ananyata का अनन्यत्व कार्यकारणयोः कार्योच्च कार्योच्च कारणमत्वं न तु कारणस्थ कर्त्यमत् कर्त्यमत्वम्. Despite the non-difference of cause and effect, the effect has itself in the cause, but not the cause in the effect. The effect is of the nature of the cause, and not the cause the nature of the effect. Therefore, the qualities of the effect cannot touch the cause. At the time of the existence, one can easily grasp that the effect is not different from the cause, but the cause is different from the effect is not readily understood. As to this, it is not easy to separate cause and effect, but it is impossible by imagination. For example, the reflection of the moon in the mirror. Only the form of the moon is seen, but it is not the moon itself as it. The reflection has no moon in it. In Chandogya Upanishad, it is said, Sarvam Sarvam cha namarupadi namrupadi sadatmane sadatmanaiv at atyam विकारजातं स्वतस्तु अंतरमेव अनृतमेव. All names and forms are real when seen with the Sat Brahman, but are false when seen independent of Brahman. Karya is not different from the Karan. Nonetheless, Karana is different from Karya Jagat. The world is not different from Brahman. On the other hand, Brahman is different from the Jagat. Knowledge. True knowledge is attained by eagerness to learn. The ambition to know the ultimate truth leads to wisdom. When snake is superimposed on the rope, correct information that it is only a rope, not a snake, but must be clarified. The person who has mistaken the rope for a snake must understand the object rope as the existing thing and snake as an illusion. Before deciding to perceive an object right or wrong, one has to know how the things are perceived in the first place. Advaita philosophy states that there are six different ways of learning. Uh, Pratyaksha, the knowledge gained by the senses. Anuman, the knowledge gained by the inference. Upman, the knowledge gained by analogy. Shabda or Agama, knowledge gained by testimony. Arthapatti, the knowledge gained by superimposing the known knowledge on an appearing knowledge that does not occur with the known knowledge. Anupalabdhi, the knowledge gained by negation. Among all these, the importance is given to verbal testimony, shabda or agama. To acquire knowledge, pramatra, the subject, the knower of the knowledge, praman, the cause of the means of knowledge, and the pramay, the object of knowledge, are very essential. Knowledge is achieved by mediate or immediate. The difference is that while in the first only that of the object is known, in the second what is also understood, both are alike vritti, behavior of the internal organ in which the sakshin, what is present, is imminent. In some cases, to obtain knowledge, it does not involve sensory perception. The empirical self is understood immediately, but it is not presented to any senses. So the word pratyaksha, present to the sense, is replaced with aparoksha, non-immediate. Knowledge is immediate whether it is by the senses or not. The object must be such that one can comprehend directly. Yogya. For example, the chair is understood by looking at it, but not kindness. Or other condition is that the object must be present at the time. Finally, there must be an intimate relationship between the subject and the object in question. For the external object, the vritti flows out to understand, whereas internal it originates inside, like understanding happiness or sorrow. Accomplishment of knowledge happens when subject and object come together, and by a hypothesis they are removed from each other and occupy a different place in the space. The vritti relates these two and brings about for the time being identical ground for the two. Describing how the understanding takes place, M. Hiriana writes, when an organ is brought in contact with with an object, the the un, the antahkaran, like a searchlight as it were, goes out towards it and gets itself determined by it, or assumes the form of the object. The existence of knowledge is thus necessary so that psychologically the theory is realistic. When the vritti coincides with the object, the perceptual knowledge arises. Vritti is internal, so it coincides with jiva. This brings about the connection between the knower and the known. As these stages of knowing are internal, M. Hiriana says that the object is felt rather known. The same thing happens to the internal also, like happiness and sorrow. The condition is that at the time of knowing it must be present. In some situation like religious merits, punya, and demerits, papa and antakaran cannot understand because of the lack of condition. Yoga and feltless. They are understood by verbal testimony. Going back to the mistaking group of the snake, the Antakaran understand the object by Arthapatti. This wrong understanding can be rectified if the subject is made to realize by Sabda. Once Anuman is cleared, then it makes way to the true knowledge. Attaining liberation through knowledge. Almost all Indian philosophical systems give importance to liberation and looks at it as the main aim of the mankind, and Advaita is no exception. Advaita Vedanta looks at liberation as being knowing and experiencing one's true self. Pure knowledge is not under others' control, nor is it under any control. It is something one has. All it needs is a quest to know the truth and reality. Once one has that thirst to know, immediately the pure knowledge surfaces to understanding. According to Shankara, there are four understanding characteristics of a person who in quest of pure knowledge, who he is able to distinguish between what is eternal and what is not. He will be non-attached to present and future actions. He acquires moral virtues like tranquility, restraint, etc. He desires liberation. Advaita says that liberation is free from differentiation and identifies only with true self, which is without beginning and end and without any change of any sort. Sankara dispute the idea of the Mimamsas. The liberation is a result of action. Firstly, he says that liberation is identical with true self. The true self does not have a commencement or finish, whereas the result of an action has a starting and comes to existence when an act is performed. So the liberation cannot be the result of an action. Secondly, there are four kinds of actions: utpatti, the origination. For example, a potter making a pot; apatti, the attainment; apati, the attainment of a state, like arriving at a place; samskar, the purification, performing rituals; vikar, the modifications, change taking place, like milk turning to curd. To attain liberation, these actions are not necessary. The only entity of liberation is to cognize Brahman. This is the heart of Advaita epistemology and philosophy of language. Liberation is not a product. Liberation does not change a person. The liberated need not have to become someone or something else. Liberation is not to reach a place, heaven as a result of an action. The liberated will not die and be born again. Gaudpal says there is no liberation. Liberation is similar to the difference in light reflections with reflections from a stained mirror to a spotless mirror. Shankara profounds that liberation is not a future state or goal, but it exists in the present, past, and the future without any time bound. The self-realization brings about the awareness that Brahman is pure consciousness, Chit, awareness, Gyan, and witness, Sakshi. Uh, Brahman is the self-luminous. By his light, everything shines out. Which, while such an understanding is reached, then the relationship between knower and the known merges. There will be no subject and object relationship. Shankara is of the opinion that even on the state of bliss, Ananda is not cognized or experienced by the liberated soul. Gaudpad, in his work Mandu ke Kartika, book 3, commenting on a non-duality, Karika 37 से 38, 37 to 48, states that liberation is rather the awareness of the mind, samadhi, concentration which is beyond language and thought, very calm and unwavering, full of light and without fear. Since there are no thoughts about objects, the awareness rests in itself and attains equanimity. He further argues that it is not easy to reach this state because we are grounded by fear. This is difficult even for the yogis. When one reaches this state, one is free from all pain and pleasure because there will be no distinctions or awareness of the emotional attachment due to physical senses. The mind will be immersed in the divine light of understanding the absolute. There is oneness with the whole of the universe. The liberated man functions like a burnt seed. He will be inactive. It is like liberation in living. The behavior is to live his life to complete his present life's uh, prarabdha karma. Let us sum up. It is through pure consciousness, vijnana, one understands the truth, thirst for the truth, does not have a beginning or end. It is always present inside. Only one needs to recognize it. When one understands the greatest truth of the absolute Brahman, that the effect of the world is illuminating like a source of infinite light, then he is liberated from the ignorance avidya and released from illusion maya. It is said the manifold uniform universe is in truth a single reality. There is only one great being, which the sages call Brahman, in which all countless forms of existence reside. That great being is utter consciousness, and it is the very essence or self, Atman of all being. Advait uphold that a person can be liberated while still living in the body. The identification of the self with the highest self is the liberation. According to Advaita, there is neither dissolution nor creation, neither a person in bondage nor any spiritual aspirant, neither any seeker after liberation nor one that is liberated. This realization is the highest truth. The ethics of the Advait philosophy stress that the liberated understand the absolute Brahman and lead a life and do what they have to do in their lifetime, like a dew drops on a leaf to merge in the sunlight. Thank you.